I stacked shelves in a supermarket, but I studied to be an engineer. I was a fresher at uni before life brought me here. When the bombs began falling, I had to stop my degree. In fact, I stopped everything because we had to flee. We ran from tyrants who held lust for power, giving up our paradise for evil to devour. Just like with COVID, it started with whisperings of change. But we laughed at the stories that seemed so strange. It wasn't until tanks and guards suddenly came that we realized peril had spread across our terrain. Desperate to find answers amidst fears that drowned us, no one was immune from the dangers around us. I see gluttonous queues causing havoc down shop aisles, like those in makeshift camps after walking for miles. Subjective treasures held so tight amidst quotas for supplies and frantic fights. But I've already seen panic like this grow, having starved in ways you would never know. When supplies became rations and rations became rare, we ate from trees and then grass until all became bare. No longer could water be mixed with crushed leaves to make make-believe milk for little bellies. You're anxious for the pet you clearly adore. Well, my cat got eaten by the boy next door. A civilized society changed overnight, isolated in bubbles of wretched plight. From conformers to informers, they looked out for themselves, using violence to hoard as they stuffed their shelves. Abuses of power leave people misled, but insatiable needs can never be fed. Everyone drowned by individual sorrows. We all had friends that turned into foes. No shoulders to carry the burden of traumas, men left on the ground without any mourners. What you saw on the news was labelled as hell, but at the core of its torment was where we had to dwell. Sloth smeared across a system so clearly one-sided, ignoring cries of a nation so clearly divided, continuing to facilitate legalized chaos, selling weapons to trigger destruction and loss. This refusal to act wasn't the first. I've witnessed it firsthand at its worst. When huge ships were sent out to sea to ensure waters were safe from refugees. I still can't stand fish stalls in store. They remind me of the bodies that washed up at shore. Half-eaten babies, tattered and bruised, leaving the whole world stunned and confused. Imagine the shock that we had to face, running from death to a life of disgrace, consigned to camps where no one was safe, where anything could vanish without a trace. Wrath hurled by those with no empathy, condemning survivors of catastrophe. Inferior citizens battling hate as race determined survival rate. Unable to work or send children to school, constantly treated like incompetent fools. Relieving hunger without satisfying taste, nobody chooses to live life displaced. I hailed from a city envied for steel, rich in heritage, a scholarly ideal. But anarchy was quick to pick up its pace, and Damascus soon became a difficult place. As I marched on the path I was made to choose, I became the story I watched on the news. We were smuggled as we fled under a dark night sky, drugging children so they slept and didn't cry. Chamomile reminds me of no man's land, where a toddler was smothered by her own father's hand. She had woken too early and risked ruining our plot. If we had been seen or heard, we would have all been shot. Numbed by a journey so slow and grim, haunted by memories my mind still spins. It feels surreal to think back over time when I ignored problems because they were not mine. From tissue hoarding to murderous boat boarding, I never thought it unfair. If it didn't affect me, I really didn't care. But now when I see roses, I'm reminded of home, of fragrant lands I was once proud to own. And 10 harrowing years after the Syrian conflict, I remain nothing more than a mere statistic. And as Brexit Brigade became tough to condone, we started clapping for people who were told to go home.